The mining asteroid of Kepler 442b had seen many strange visitors over the decades, but none quite like the two beings huddled in the shadows of Cargo Bay 7. Zara clutched her younger brother Kith close to her scaled chest, feeling his small body trembling with each labored breath. The dragon-like Ashkari were a proud species, their crystalline scales shimmering even in the dim emergency lighting. But pride meant nothing when your sibling was dying. Kith's scales had lost their natural blue luster 3 days ago, fading to a sickly gray that spread like infection across his small frame. His breathing came in short, desperate gasps, and worst of all, his internal flame had begun to flicker. For an Ashkari, the internal flame was life itself. When it died, so did they. The human mining station orbited just 2 kilometers away, its lights visible through the small porthole. Zara had heard the stories, the whispered tales from other species about human medical technology. They said humans could work miracles, that they refused to let anyone die if they could help it. But they also said humans were dangerous, unpredictable creatures who had fought their way across the galaxy with nothing but determination and stubborn refusal to accept defeat. "Sister," Kith wheezed, his voice barely a whisper. "The water burns inside me. Everything burns." Zara pressed her forehead against his, feeling the heat radiating from his fevered scales. She knew what was happening. Kith had contracted flame rot, a disease that attacked the internal organs that produced an Ashkari's life flame. Without proper treatment, he would be dead within hours. Their own ship's medical bay had been destroyed in the pirate attack that left them stranded here. And Ashkari medicine was primitive compared to what they needed. The human station represented their only hope, but approaching it meant risking everything. Humans had a reputation for being territorial about their space, and the Ashkari Confederacy had never established formal diplomatic relations with the Terran Federation. For all Zara knew, the humans might shoot first and ask questions later. But as she watched her brother's flame flicker weaker with each passing moment, she realized she had no choice. "Hold on, little flame," she whispered, using the pet name she had called him since he was a hatchling. "Your sister is going to fix this." Zara carefully lifted Kith into her arms and made her way to their damaged shuttle's communication array. Her clawed fingers moved across the controls with practiced precision, sending out a general distress signal on the human emergency frequency. She had learned their language years ago, during her time as a deep space trader, but had never imagined she would need to use it to beg for her brother's life. "Human station, this is Ashkari Vessel Designation 7 Winds. We have a medical emergency. My brother is dying. Please, if you can hear this, we need help." For long moments, only static answered her. Kith's breathing grew shallower, and she could see his flame dimming through the translucent patches on his throat. Then, crackling through the speakers, came a voice that would change everything. "7 Winds, this is Dr. Sarah Chen aboard Human Medical Station Nightingale. We copy your distress signal. What is the nature of your medical emergency?" The voice was female, calm but urgent, with an underlying tone of absolute authority. Zara felt a spark of hope ignite in her chest. "My brother has flame rot," she replied, her voice cracking with emotion she tried to suppress. "He is only 12 cycles old. I know our species have never met officially, but I have heard humans can work medical miracles. Please, I will give you anything you want. Just save him." There was a pause, then the human voice returned, warmer now but filled with determination. "Zara, is it? Listen to me very carefully. Flame rot is treatable, but we need to act fast. I'm dispatching a medical shuttle to your location immediately. Do not attempt to move your brother. Keep him warm and try to keep his breathing steady. We're going to bring him home." As Zara watched the human medical shuttle detach from the station and race toward their position, she realized that perhaps the stories about humans were true, but not the ones about them being dangerous. The true stories were about their refusal to let anyone suffer when they could help, regardless of species, politics, or the risks involved. The shuttle's docking clamps engaged with their ship, and Zara heard the airlock cycling. Soon, she would meet the humans who might save her brother's life. Her scales rippled with nervous energy, but for the first time in days she dared to hope. The airlock hissed open, and 3 figures in medical suits stepped through. The lead figure removed her helmet, revealing a human female with short black hair and kind eyes that immediately focused on Kith. "I'm Dr. Chen," she said, already moving toward them with a medical scanner in her hands. "And we're going to save your brother." Dr. Sarah Chen moved with the fluid precision of someone who had spent years saving lives in the most impossible circumstances. Her scanner hummed as it passed over Kith's small form, and Zara watched the human's expression grow more serious with each reading. "The flame rot has progressed further than I hoped," Dr. Chen murmured, her fingers dancing across the scanner's display. "His internal flame is at critical levels. We need to get him to the medical bay immediately." The other two humans were already preparing a specialized stretcher, one that seemed to adjust its shape to accommodate Kith's dragon-like physiology. Zara marveled at their efficiency, but more importantly, at their complete lack of fear or hesitation when dealing with a species they had never encountered before. "Doctor," Zara said, her voice tight with worry, "I should tell you, my brother's physiology is complicated. Our flame organs are connected to our nervous system in ways that most species don't understand. If you make a mistake..." Dr. Chen looked up from her scanner, meeting Zara's eyes with a steady gaze. "Then we won't make a mistake. I've been studying xenobiology for 15 years, and I've never lost a patient to ignorance. Your brother's scans are uploading to our medical database right now, and our AI is already cross-referencing with every piece of data we have on thermogenic life forms." As they carefully transferred Kith to the stretcher, Zara noticed something remarkable. The stretcher wasn't just supporting her brother's weight. It was actually warming him, providing the external heat his failing flame organs could no longer generate adequately. The humans had somehow intuited this need within minutes of seeing him. "How did you know to warm the stretcher?" she asked. One of the other medics, a tall man with gentle hands, smiled. "We didn't initially, but our AI analyzed your brother's bio-readings and determined he was suffering from systemic hypothermia, secondary to organ failure. It took about 30 seconds to modify the stretcher's heating elements. 30 seconds. They had solved a problem in 30 seconds that would have taken Ashkari doctors hours to address, if they could address it at all. The journey to the human medical station was a blur of activity. Inside the medical shuttle, Dr. Chen and her team worked continuously over Kith, monitoring his vital signs and making minute adjustments to his treatment. Zara found herself pressed against the wall, feeling helpless as she watched these strange aliens work to save her brother. "His flame is stabilizing," Dr. Chen announced as they docked with the station. "The thermal regulation is helping, but we need to address the root cause quickly." The medical bay of the human station was unlike anything Zara had ever seen. The walls seemed to pulse with data streams, and medical equipment she couldn't even begin to identify hummed with quiet efficiency. But what struck her most was the warmth of the place, not just physical warmth, but something deeper. This was a place designed for healing, where no expense had been spared to ensure that life could be preserved. They transferred Kith to what Dr. Chen called a bioadaptation chamber, a sophisticated medical pod that immediately began analyzing his physiology at the cellular level. Through the transparent walls, Zara could see her brother's small form surrounded by gentle lights and streams of data. "The chamber is learning his biology," Dr. Chen explained, noting Zara's fascinated expression. "In about 10 minutes, it will understand his physiology better than most Ashkari doctors. Then it will begin synthesizing a treatment specifically tailored to his genetic makeup." "You can do this for a species you've never encountered before?" Zara asked, incredulous. Dr. Chen smiled, and there was something fierce in that expression, something that spoke of humanity's refusal to accept the impossible. "We've made it our business to be ready for anyone who needs help. Human medical technology is built on a simple principle. If something is alive, we can find a way to keep it alive." As if to prove her point, the bioadaptation chamber chimed softly, and new data began streaming across its displays. Kith's vital signs were already showing improvement, his flame burning slightly brighter as the chamber began delivering precisely calibrated treatments. "The treatment will take several hours," Dr. Chen said, settling into a chair beside the chamber. "Your brother is going to make a full recovery. The flame rot hasn't damaged his organs permanently, and once we clear the infection, his flame should return to normal strength." Zara felt her legs give out, and she sank into a nearby chair, overwhelmed by relief and gratitude. "I don't understand. Why are you helping us? Our species have never met. You don't owe us anything." Dr. Chen looked at her with surprise, as if the question itself was strange. "Because he's a child and he's sick and we can help him. What other reason do we need?" It was then that Zara began to understand what made humans different. Not their technology, impressive as it was, but their instinctive compassion for any life in need. They had risked their own safety to help complete strangers, and they acted as if this was the most natural thing in the world. There will be questions, Dr. Chen continued. Both our governments will want to know how this contact was made. But that's a problem for later. Right now, the only thing that matters is getting your brother healthy. Zara watched her brother's flame grow steadier, and for the first time since the pirate attack, she allowed herself to truly believe that everything would be all right. Hours passed in the medical bay, and Zara found herself in deep conversation with Dr. Chen about the differences between their species. The human woman seemed genuinely fascinated by Ashkari physiology, asking thoughtful questions about their flame organs and thermal regulation systems. What impressed Zara most was that Dr. Chen never asked with the cold curiosity of a scientist studying a specimen, but with the warm interest of someone who genuinely cared about understanding her patients. Your brother's flame is quite remarkable, Dr. Chen said, studying the readouts from the bioadaptation chamber. The way it integrates with his immune system, his digestive processes, even his emotional state. It's like having a biological fusion reactor that responds to psychological stimuli. No wonder the flame rot was so dangerous. It wasn't just attacking his organs, it was disrupting his entire life force. Kith stirred in the chamber, his eyes fluttering open for the first time in hours. The grayness had faded from his scales, replaced by a healthy blue shimmer, and his flame burned bright and steady in his throat. He looked around in confusion until his gaze found Zara. "Sister," he said weakly. "Where are we? And why do I smell mammals?" Dr. Chen laughed, a sound of pure delight. "He's definitely feeling better if he's making jokes about our scent. That's actually a very good sign. Humor indicates proper neural function." Zara rushed to the chamber as Dr. Chen opened it, allowing her to hold her brother's hand. "We're on a human medical station, little flame. These people saved your life." Kith's large eyes widened as he took in the alien surroundings, but instead of fear, Zara saw curiosity. "Humans, the ones from the stories? They're smaller than I expected. And you're much younger than I expected to be treating," Dr. Chen replied with a smile. "How are you feeling, Kith?" "Better," he said, then looked directly at Dr. Chen. "Thank you for fixing me. I'm sorry if I caused trouble." Dr. Chen's expression softened. "You didn't cause any trouble at all. In fact, you've given us a wonderful opportunity to learn about your people. Would you like to see how our medical equipment works?" For the next hour, Dr. Chen gave Kith a gentle tour of the medical bay, explaining how human technology worked to heal the sick and injured. Zara watched her brother's natural curiosity bloom as he asked question after question, and she marveled at how patiently the human doctor answered each one. "The bioadaptation chamber learned to help me by studying my body?" Kith asked, his flame flickering with excitement. "That's right. We believe that every species is unique, so our medical technology adapts to each patient individually. We never assume that what works for humans will work for anyone else." "That's very wise," Kith said solemnly. "Our doctors sometimes forget that not all Ashkari are exactly the same." It was during this conversation that Captain Rodriguez, the station commander, arrived at the medical bay. He was a weathered man with kind eyes and the bearing of someone accustomed to making difficult decisions. Zara tensed, wondering if this was when the humans would demand payment or make political demands. "Dr. Chen," the captain said, "I've just received word from Earth Command. They're very interested in this first contact situation." Zara's scales rippled with anxiety, but Captain Rodriguez held up a reassuring hand. "Before you worry, let me be clear. Earth Command's primary concern is ensuring your brother receives complete medical care and that both of you feel safe. Any diplomatic discussions will happen only if and when you're ready for them." "You mean we're not prisoners?" Zara asked. Captain Rodriguez looked genuinely shocked. "Prisoners? You came to us for help with a medical emergency. The only crime here would be if we had refused to help. You're our guests, and you'll remain our guests for as long as you need." Dr. Chen nodded in agreement. "I want to keep Kith under observation for at least another day to make sure the treatment holds. But after that, you're free to go wherever you wish. Though I hope you'll consider staying longer. We have so much we could learn from each other." Kith looked up at his sister with bright eyes. "Could we stay a little longer? I want to learn more about human medicine. Maybe I could become a doctor who helps both our species." The simple innocence of the request hit everyone in the room. Here was a child who had nearly died, saved by aliens he had never met before, and his first thought was about how he could help others in return. Zara saw tears in Dr. Chen's eyes, and even Captain Rodriguez seemed moved. "I think that's a wonderful idea," Dr. Chen said. "We'd be honored to teach you what we can." That evening, as Kith slept peacefully in a regular bed instead of the bioadaptation chamber, Zara found herself on the observation deck with Dr. Chen, looking out at the stars. The human woman had become more than just a doctor. She was becoming a friend. "Why did you really help us?" Zara asked. "And please don't say it's just because Kith was sick." "You risked a lot bringing unknown aliens onto your station." Dr. Chen was quiet for a long moment. "When I was Kith's age, I got very sick. A rare genetic disorder that our medicine at the time couldn't treat. I was dying, and my parents were desperate. They heard about an experimental treatment being developed by researchers on Europa, but it was incredibly expensive and risky. A group of complete strangers, doctors, researchers, even ordinary people, donated money and resources to help a little girl they'd never met." She turned to look at Zara. "Those strangers saved my life. They didn't know me anything, but they helped anyway, because it was the right thing to do. When I became a doctor, I swore that I would do the same for anyone who needed it, no matter where they came from." Zara understood then that this wasn't just about medical technology or human advancement. This was about something deeper, something that made humans unique in a galaxy often dominated by suspicion and self-interest. They helped because they could, and because they believed that every life had value. "Your brother's going to be fine," Dr. Chen added. "But more than that, I think this meeting between our species is going to change things for the better. Kith has already taught us more about Ashkari biology in one day than we could have learned in years of theoretical study." As Zara watched the stars wheel slowly past the observation deck, she realized that her desperate gamble to save her brother had accomplished something far greater than she had ever imagined. It had built a bridge between two species that might someday span the galaxy. 3 days later, the medical station had transformed into something unprecedented in galactic history, the site of the first official cultural exchange between humans and Ashkari. Word of Kith's recovery had spread through both civilizations' communication networks, and what had begun as a medical emergency was becoming a diplomatic revolution. Kith had appointed himself as the unofficial ambassador of fun, dragging any human who would listen into elaborate explanations of Ashkari culture, games, and traditions. His enthusiasm was infectious, and Zara often found clusters of off-duty station personnel gathered around her brother as he demonstrated how Ashkari children played flame tag or told stories that made their internal flames flicker in rhythm with the narrative. "The humans are wonderful," Kith announced to Zara during one of their private moments. "Dr. Martinez taught me how to play chess, and Engineer Thompson showed me how their artificial gravity works. Did you know they had to invent 17 different types of ice cream before they found one that tastes good to us?" Zara had indeed noticed the kitchen staff's determined efforts to create Ashkari-compatible food. What had started as simple nutritional necessity had evolved into an enthusiastic culinary experiment, with human chefs working around the clock to develop dishes that could be enjoyed by both species. The breakthrough had come when they discovered that Ashkari taste buds responded well to crystallized minerals, mixed with thermal reactive compounds. "And Dr. Chen says that when I'm older, I can come back and study at their medical academy," Kith continued, his flame bright with excitement. "They want to create a xenobiology program, and they need Ashkari input to make sure they understand other species properly." Dr. Chen approached them, carrying a data pad and wearing the satisfied expression of someone who had just solved a complex puzzle. "Speaking of xenobiology, I have some interesting news. The analysis of Kith's treatment has revealed something remarkable about Ashkari immune systems." She activated the data pad, showing complex biological diagrams. That meant little to Zara but seemed to fascinate Kith. "Your people's flame organs don't just provide heat and energy. They're actually the most sophisticated biological toxin filters we've ever encountered." Kith's recovery was so rapid because once we cleared the initial infection, his flame organs immediately began purging every trace of the disease from his system. "What does that mean?" Zara asked. "It means that Ashkari might be naturally immune to most biological weapons and diseases that affect other species. But more importantly, It means that studying your physiology could help us develop better treatments for everyone else. Dr. Chen's excitement was palpable. With Kith's permission, we'd like to synthesize some of the enzymes his flame organs produce. Not to weaponize them, but to create universal antidotes and immune boosters that could save lives across the galaxy. Kith looked thoughtful, his flame dimming slightly as he considered the implications. Would this help other sick children like me? Potentially millions of them, Dr. Chen confirmed. Then of course you can use whatever you need, Kith said immediately. But I want to help with the research. I want to understand how it works. It was then that Captain Rodriguez appeared, accompanied by a woman Zara didn't recognize, someone whose bearing suggested high-level diplomatic authority. The captain's expression was serious but not worried. Zara, Kith, I'd like you to meet Ambassador Elena Vasquez from the Terran Federation's First Contact Division. She's here to discuss the future of human-Ashkari relations. Ambassador Vasquez was a small woman with sharp eyes and a warm smile. She approached them with the careful respect of someone who understood the historical significance of the moment. First, let me say how delighted we are that Kith has recovered completely. Your brother's courage in coming here has opened doors that we never imagined possible. What kind of doors? Zara asked cautiously. The Ashkari Confederacy has sent their own diplomatic team. They should arrive here within 2 days. Both our governments want to establish formal relations, starting with medical and scientific cooperation. Your brother's case has shown both sides how much we can accomplish together. Kith's eyes widened. Diplomatic team? Are they going to be angry that we contacted humans without permission? Ambassador Vasquez laughed. On the contrary, the Confederacy is calling your sister a hero. Her quick thinking and willingness to reach out for help saved not only your life but potentially countless others. The medical techniques we've developed treating you are already being shared with Ashkari doctors. Dr. Chen nodded enthusiastically. We've had 3 video conferences with Ashkari medical teams. They're sharing their knowledge of flame organ physiology, and we're teaching them our bioadaptation techniques. It's been incredibly productive. But, Ambassador Vasquez continued, there's something else we need to discuss. The story of what happened here has captured the imagination of both our peoples. There are calls for a permanent joint research station, cultural exchange programs, even discussion of mixed-species colonies. Zara felt overwhelmed by the scope of what was being proposed. All because I asked for help saving my brother? All because you proved that our species can trust each other, Ambassador Vasquez corrected. In a galaxy where most first contacts end in suspicion or conflict, you showed that sometimes the right choice is simply to help someone in need. Kith tugged on his sister's arm. Zara, does this mean we can stay and help build the research station? I want to learn everything Dr. Chen can teach me. It means, Dr. Chen said with a grin, that if you want to stay, we'll make sure you have the best education in xenobiology that 2 species can provide. You'll be learning from the best minds of both civilizations, Captain. Rodriguez looked out the observation window at the approaching ships, both human and Ashkari, vessels coming together for the first time in peace. You know, when I took command of this station, I thought the most exciting thing we'd encounter would be unusual asteroid formations. I never imagined we'd be hosting the most important diplomatic event in galactic history. As they watched the ships approach, Zara realized that her desperate gamble to save her brother had accomplished something far beyond her wildest dreams. She had not only saved Kith's life, but had accidentally started what might become the galaxy's most successful interspecies alliance. Sister, Kith said quietly, thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you, she replied, for giving me a reason to be brave. The arrival of the Ashkari diplomatic vessel 3 days later marked a turning point that no one could have anticipated. The sleek, crystalline ship docked with the human station in a carefully choreographed dance of mutual respect, with both species taking extraordinary care to demonstrate their peaceful intentions. Zara stood beside Captain Rodriguez and Ambassador Vasquez as the airlock cycled open, her hearts beating rapidly with nervousness. The first figure to emerge was Chancellor Thane, the Confederacy's top diplomat, his ancient scales gleaming with the deep purple that marked high rank among their people. Behind him came a delegation of scientists, medical experts, and cultural specialists. What surprised everyone, however, was Chancellor Thane's first action upon seeing Zara, the old diplomat, who had negotiated treaties with dozens of species across the galaxy. immediately performed the traditional Ashkari gesture of deep respect, a complex movement that involved dimming his internal flame and spreading his arm wings in acknowledgement of someone who had brought great honor to their people. Zara of the Seven, Wynn's clan, he said formally, the Confederacy owes you a debt that can never be fully repaid. Your courage in reaching out to an unknown species to save your brother has opened a new chapter in Ashkari history. I just wanted to save Kith, Zara replied, overwhelmed by the formality of the moment. And in doing so, you may have saved us all, Chancellor Thane responded. The humans have already shared their medical advances with our doctors. 3 Ashkari children suffering from flame rot have been successfully treated using the techniques developed for your brother. You saved not just one life, but many. Kith, who had been watching the proceedings with wide eyes, suddenly stepped forward. Honored Chancellor, may I introduce my friends? This is Dr. Chen, who saved my life, and Captain Rodriguez, who welcomed us when we had nowhere else to go. The young Ashkari's easy familiarity with the humans clearly surprised the diplomatic delegation, but Chancellor Thane recovered quickly. Dr. Chen, your reputation has preceded you. Our medical council is eager to collaborate with someone of your expertise. The pleasure is entirely mine, Dr. Chen replied. Kith has taught us more about Ashkari physiology than years of theoretical study could have accomplished. He's a natural teacher. As the formal introductions continued, Zara found herself pulled aside by Dr. Kira Thess, the Confederacy's chief xenobiologist. Dr. Thess was younger than most of the delegation, her scales bearing the bright green markings of the scientific caste. I need to ask you something privately, Dr. Thess said. The humans have been remarkably open with their medical data, sharing everything they learned from treating your brother. This level of cooperation is unprecedented in interspecies relations. Do you trust them? Zara considered the question carefully. Dr. Chen could have demanded payment, or insisted on keeping Kith for study, or any number of things that would have benefited humans at our expense. Instead, she focused entirely on healing him, and then invited us to be partners in learning. I've watched these people for days now, and I believe their compassion is genuine. Dr. Thess nodded slowly. That matches what we've observed in our preliminary interactions. They've made no territorial demands, asked for no resources, and even insisted on sharing the credit for any medical breakthroughs equally. It's unusual. Is that why the Confederacy sent such a high-level delegation? Zara asked. Partly, Dr. Thess admitted, but also because the initial report seemed too good to be true. A species that helps strangers without demanding anything in return, that develops life-saving medical technology and immediately shares it with potential competitors. We had to see it for ourselves. Their conversation was interrupted by excited voices from the main group. Kith was demonstrating something to the assembled diplomats and scientists, his flame flickering in complex patterns, while Dr. Chen operated a handheld device. What are they doing? Dr. Thess asked. Captain Rodriguez grinned. Your young friend has been helping us develop a real-time translator for Ashkari flame speech. We knew your people communicated partially through flame patterns, but Kith has been teaching us the grammatical structure. Dr. Chen thinks we can have a working prototype within a week. Chancellor Thane looked amazed. Flame speech is one of our most complex communication forms. Most alien species can't even perceive the patterns, let alone interpret them. Humans are remarkably good at pattern recognition, Dr. Chen explained. Once Kith showed us what to look for, our computers could analyze the flame fluctuations and correlate them with verbal communication. It's actually quite beautiful, like watching poetry written in light. Ambassador Vasquez stepped forward with a datapad. Chancellor, I have a preliminary proposal from the Terran Federation for your consideration. We'd like to establish a permanent joint research facility, initially focused on medical cooperation, but eventually expanding to include cultural and technological exchange. What would the Federation want in return? Chancellor Thane asked cautiously. Partnership, Ambassador Vasquez replied simply. We believe that both our species will benefit more from collaboration than we ever could from competition. The Federation is prepared to commit significant resources to this project with no expectation of exclusive benefits. Dr. Thess leaned forward, clearly intrigued. You would share all research findings equally? More than that, Dr. Chen interjected. We're proposing that all major breakthroughs be shared with the entire galactic community. Medical advances shouldn't be hoarded by any one species or alliance. Kith, who had been listening to the adult conversation with growing excitement, suddenly spoke up. Could I help design the research station? I have ideas about how to make it work for both our species. The adults looked at each other in surprise, then Chancellor Thane smiled. Young Kith, you've already contributed more to interspecies relations than most diplomats accomplish in their entire careers. What ideas do you have? For the next hour, they listened as Kith outlined his vision for a station that could accommodate the needs of both species. His suggestions were surprisingly sophisticated, covering everything from atmospheric requirements to cultural spaces where both humans and Ashkari could feel comfortable. He's right about the thermal zones, Dr. Chen admitted. Ashkari need higher baseline temperatures than humans, but we could design overlapping areas where both species can interact comfortably. And the idea about shared laboratories is brilliant, Dr. Thess added. Having both species work side by side would accelerate learning exponentially. As the discussions continued, Zara realized that her brother had found his calling. This wasn't just about medicine anymore. Kith was helping to design the future of interspecies cooperation. Sister, Kith said quietly during a brief break, I think this is what I want to do with my life, help different species understand each other. I think, Zara replied, watching the humans and Ashkari working together with growing enthusiasm, that you're going to be very good at it. 6 months after that first desperate distress call, the Joint Research Station Unity's Dawn had become the most successful interspecies collaboration in galactic history. Built in the space between the human mining station and Ashkari territory, it housed over 300 researchers, diplomats, and support staff from both civilizations. Kith had grown taller in those months, his scales taking on the deeper blue of adolescence. But his enthusiasm for learning had only intensified. He spent his days moving between human and Ashkari sections of the station, serving as both student and teacher in the unprecedented cultural exchange taking place. Zara, look at this, he called out as his sister entered the main laboratory. He was working alongside Dr. Chen and Dr. Thess at a biosynthesis array that hadn't existed 6 months earlier. We've successfully created a universal vaccine base that can be adapted for any known physiology within 4 hours. The breakthrough was typical of what happened when human adaptability met Ashkari biological understanding. Separately, neither species might have achieved such advances for decades. Together, they were revolutionizing medicine at a pace that amazed everyone involved. Dr. Chen beamed with pride. Kith suggested using flame organ enzymes as a stabilizing agent. It was the missing piece we needed to make the formula truly universal. And Dr. Chen taught me how to use quantum modeling to predict enzyme interactions, Kith added. Between our biological understanding and human technology, we can solve problems neither species could handle alone. Zara smiled at her brother's excitement, but she had other concerns on her mind. As the official liaison between the station and the broader galaxy, she had been receiving increasingly concerned messages from other species about the rapid advancement of human-Ashkari cooperation. Kith, I need to discuss something with you and Dr. Chen, she said. We've received formal inquiries from the Zenthari Empire and the Carillion Collective. They're concerned about our alliance. Dr. Chen's expression grew serious. What kind of concerns? They think we're developing too quickly, sharing too much technology. The Zenthari ambassador asked if we were planning to form a military alliance against other species. Kith's flame dimmed with worry. But that's not what this is about at all. We're trying to help everyone. I know that and you know that, Zara replied. But other species see two civilizations sharing advanced technology and assume the worst. Captain Rodriguez, who had been promoted to station commander, joined the conversation. We've been anticipating this. The Federation Council has asked me to extend an invitation to any species that wants to observe our work here. Complete transparency. The Confederacy has made the same offer, Zara confirmed. But some species are interpreting our openness as arrogance, as if we think we're better than them. Dr. Thess, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. Perhaps it's time for a demonstration. Instead of just talking about how our collaboration helps everyone, we should show them. What do you mean? Dr. Chen asked. The Vorthak Republic has been struggling with a viral plague for months, Dr. Thess explained. Their physiology is silicon-based, completely different from both our species. If we could develop a treatment for them using our combined knowledge, it would prove that our alliance benefits the entire galaxy. Kith's eyes lit up. Could we really help them? I've been reading about Vorthak biology and their immune systems are fascinating. They use crystalline structures instead of organic antibodies. It would be incredibly challenging, Dr. Chen admitted. We've never worked with silicon-based life forms before. But that's exactly why we should try, Captain Rodriguez said. If we succeed, it proves that human-Ashkari cooperation isn't about creating an exclusive alliance. It's about expanding our ability to help everyone. Over the next 3 weeks, the Unity's Dawn Station became a hive of activity, unlike anything seen before. Teams of researchers worked around the clock, combining human technological innovation with Ashkari biological insights to understand an entirely alien form of life. Kith threw himself into the project with characteristic enthusiasm, spending hours studying Vorthak anatomical data and working with both human and Ashkari scientists to develop theoretical treatments. His unique perspective, shaped by growing up surrounded by two species knowledge, often led to insights that purely human or Ashkari teams missed. The key is understanding how they process energy, he explained to a mixed group of researchers. Vorthak don't have flame organs like us or metabolic systems like humans. They absorb solar radiation directly through their crystalline skin and convert it to usable energy. The plague is disrupting that conversion process. Dr. Chen nodded approvingly. So we need to find a way to restore their energy conversion efficiency while eliminating the viral interference. Exactly. And I think we can do it by combining Ashkari thermal regulation principles with human nanotechnology. The breakthrough came when Kith suggested using modified flame organ enzymes as templates for creating synthetic solar conversion catalysts. It was a concept so innovative that it took teams of experts from both species working together to make it reality. When the treatment was finally ready, the entire station held its breath as they transmitted the formula to the Vorthak Republic. The response came back within hours. The treatment was working. The plague that had resisted all previous attempts at cure was finally being defeated. The galactic response was immediate and overwhelming. Species from across the galaxy sent messages of gratitude and requests for cooperation. The Zenthari Empire, which had been most suspicious of the human-Ashkari alliance, formally requested admission to the research station as observers. I think, Ambassador Vasquez said as she reviewed the flood of positive responses, we've accomplished something unprecedented. Instead of other species fearing our alliance, they want to join it. Chancellor Thane, who had become a permanent resident of the station, nodded in agreement. What started as one sister's desperate attempt to save her brother has become a model for how the entire galaxy can work together. Kith, now wearing the insignia of a junior researcher, looked out at the stars visible through the laboratory's observation windows. Dr. Chen, do you think we'll be able to help everyone who needs it? Dr. Chen put her hand on his shoulder. I think, Kith, that as long as there are people like you and your sister in the galaxy, people who believe that helping others is more important than any other consideration, we'll keep finding ways to make the impossible possible. As the station continued its work, word spread throughout the galaxy of a new kind of alliance, not one based on territory or resources or military strength, but on the simple principle that Zara had demonstrated that desperate day when she called for help. When someone is in need, you help them, regardless of who they are or where they come from. It was, the historians would later write, the beginning of the compassionate age. 2 years had passed since Kith's near-death experience, and the Unity's Dawn Station had evolved into something far greater than anyone had originally envisioned. What began as a joint human-Ashkari research facility had become the Galactic Medical Cooperative, hosting representatives from 17 different species and serving as the primary center for interspecies medical research in known space. Kith, now 14 and bearing the distinctive flame patterns of an accomplished young scholar, stood before the station's main assembly hall addressing an audience that would have been unimaginable just 2 years earlier. Humans, Ashkari, Vorthak, Zenthari, and a dozen other species listened as he presented his latest research findings. The breakthrough came when we realized that all life forms, regardless of their biochemical basis, share certain fundamental energy patterns, he explained, his flame flickering in the complex rhythms that had become the station's unofficial universal language. By understanding these patterns, we can develop treatments that work across species boundaries. In the audience, Zara watched her brother with pride that threatened to overwhelm her. The frightened little dragon child who had nearly died of flame rot, had become one of the galaxy's foremost experts in universal medicine. But more than that, he had become a symbol of what was possible when different species chose cooperation over conflict. Dr. Chen, now the station's chief medical officer, stood to ask a question. Kith, your research suggests that emotional states have measurable effects on biological healing across all species. Can you explain how this impacts treatment protocols? Kith's flame brightened with enthusiasm. Yes, we've discovered that feelings of hope, security, and connection actually boost immune responses in every species we've studied. It's not just about the medicine we give patients. It's about the care and compassion we show them. A Xanthari researcher, her crystalline form shimmering with curiosity, raised an appendage. This implies that the human approach to medicine, treating not just the disease but the whole person, has universal applications? Exactly, Kith replied. When my sister brought me here, Dr. Chen didn't just treat my flame rot. She made me feel safe, valued, and cared for. That emotional healing was just as important as the physical treatment. From the back of the hall, Chancellor Thane spoke up. Young Kith has identified something that our species have understood instinctively, but never quantified scientifically. Compassion itself is a healing force. The presentation continued for another hour, with Kith fielding questions from some of the galaxy's most brilliant minds. But it was the informal gathering afterward that truly demonstrated how much had changed. In the station's common area, beings from across the galaxy shared food, stories, and laughter. Human children played with young Ashkari, their games a mixture of traditions from both species. Fourthak researchers collaborated with Xanthari engineers on projects that would have been impossible for either species alone. Sister, Kith said, joining Zara at an observation window that looked out at the constant stream of ships arriving and departing from the station. Do you ever think about that day when you called for help? Every day, Zara replied. I was so scared, so desperate. I never imagined it would lead to all this. I've been thinking about writing a book about it, Kith said. Not just about the medical aspects, but about what happens when someone chooses to trust strangers. Dr. Chen says human children learn about our story in their schools now. And Ashkari, younglings learn about the human. Doctors who saved a dragon child they'd never met. Before, Zara added, the story has become bigger than us. They were interrupted by Ambassador Vasquez, who approached with a data pad and an expression of barely contained excitement. Zara, Kith, I have news that I think you'll find interesting. The Galactic Council has voted unanimously to establish medical research stations based on the Unity's Dawn model in every major system. They're calling it the Compassionate Network. Kith's flame nearly burst with excitement. You mean there will be stations like this throughout the galaxy? More than that, Ambassador Vasquez continued. They want you two to lead the development program. Zara would oversee the diplomatic and cultural aspects, while Kith would head the medical research division. But I'm only 14, Kith protested. Dr. Chen approached, having overheard the conversation. Age is irrelevant when it comes to wisdom and compassion. You've already contributed more to galactic medicine than most researchers accomplish in their entire careers. Besides, Chancellor Thane added with a smile, you'd have the best mentors in the galaxy supporting you. As they discussed the implications of the proposal, Zara realized that this was the natural evolution of what had started with her desperate call for help. What began as one sister's love for her brother had grown into a galaxy-wide network of cooperation and mutual aid. There's something else, Dr. Chen said quietly. We've received our first request from outside the local galactic cluster. The Andromeda Medical Collective has asked for assistance with a plague affecting their systems. They want to establish diplomatic contact specifically because of what we've accomplished here. The magnitude of that statement hit everyone at once. Their work was expanding beyond their own galaxy, potentially touching civilizations they had never even imagined. Sister, Kith said softly, when you made that distress call, you weren't just saving my life, you were saving the future. Zara looked around at the bustling common area, at beings from across the galaxy working together in harmony, at her brother who had grown from a dying child into a healer of worlds. I think, she said, the future saved itself. I just made the call. As the Unity's Dawn Station continued its work, now the flagship of a galaxy-spanning network of cooperation, historians began to mark the day that Zara's distress call was answered as the beginning of a new era. The Compassionate Age, they called it. when the galaxy learned that the greatest strength came not from conquest or domination, but from the simple willingness to help a stranger in need. And at the center of it all, a young Ashkari named Kith continued his work, driven by the memory of human hands that had reached out to save him when all hope seemed lost. His research would eventually touch every corner of the galaxy, but he never forgot the lesson that started it all. Sometimes the most powerful force in the universe is simply caring enough to help. In the end, that was the most human thing of all, the refusal to let anyone suffer alone when help was possible. It was a lesson that the galaxy had learned from humanity, and one that would echo across the stars for generations to come.